Hello, and welcome to Strange Life. Ghosts. The restless souls of people who are trapped on this physical plane of reality. Or perhaps they choose to remain here. Personally, I believe in life after death, so the concept of spirits haunting the living is not hard for me to accept. Back when I was a pretty broke factory worker, I found a great deal on a rental. It was a one-bedroom house with a basement. The house also had a studio apartment attached to it, with a locked door between the two units. It was an odd setup, but the price was amazing, so I moved in. There was a strange pentagram hanging from the porch on move-in day, obviously a sign, but I just ignored it. At first, it was little things, odd things, like objects being moved, or pictures falling off walls. I figured it was my imagination, or the house settling. Then people started to get hurt. I would have small parties at my house on weekends. During the first party, a girl was headed to my bathroom and went to the basement door instead, and fell down the stairs. She broke her nose and collarbone. We all assumed she was drunk and just made a mistake. I hung a sign on the bathroom door indicating that it was the bathroom, so nobody else got confused. At the next party, a guy did the same thing. He had been to my house before and had used the bathroom before, but he somehow still happened to open the wrong door and fall down the basement stairs. He couldn't explain how it happened. He was pretty banged up too. The basement was pretty creepy. My dog was terrified of it. In the middle of the night, I heard noises that sounded like cats, and I told myself it was coming from outside. One night, I had a crazy experience. I was hearing the cats, but I couldn't wake up. I was dreaming and awake at the same time. In my dream, I felt like something was coming up from the basement, and I was scared. I dreamt that I looked over at my dog, who told me, "Get out!" I needed to wake up, but I was unable to open my eyes. I managed to slap myself in the face, and when I woke up, I was on the floor, and my dog was exactly where he was in the dream. After this, I took NyQuil or sleeping pills every night just to fall asleep. One day, I had a friend over who had a girl I'd never met with her. The girl told me she knew this house. She was a nurse who used to live in the studio apartment attached to the house. She was the caretaker of the old woman who lived on my side of the house. She said the woman had a ton of cats and was very particular about her house. She said if you touched something or moved anything, she would flip out. The woman died by falling down the basement stairs. They think she tripped over one of her cats. I saw a ghost walk into my room when I was 7 or 8. My room was about 15 by 15 feet, and I was at the back corner with the door diagonally opposite me. It was really late, and for some reason I woke up and was looking out my door. All of a sudden, a lady walks in, really slowly. I couldn't see her face, only the moonlight from behind going around her body. It was the same height as my mum, and it looked like she was wearing a nightgown. This was not a vague ghost image out of the corner of my eye. I was sitting in bed, looking directly at her. I could see her walk. I could see her figure and everything, just like a normal person, but with a creepy silhouette, like you get with a backlight in the darkness. She walked really slowly towards me. I could only see the outline, so I thought it was my mum. I called, "Mum?" in a quiet voice, but there was no reply. With each step she took, I called again, but there was no reply. I thought maybe Mum was trying to trick me, but with each call, my voice got a little higher. She walked very slowly to me and got within 6 or 7 feet from me. Then she started to walk back out. I couldn't tell if she turned around or just was walking backwards. I was freaking out somewhat, but still not sure. She walked out as slow as she came in, and I watched her back out the door. At the time, no one was in the house except my mum and me. So being a curious little bastard, I got up to see if it was her. The whole time I wondered if it was a ghost or her, but despite it looking like a ghost, I thought it surely must be my mum. I was a rational kid. And so, I walked out my door and into my brother's room where my mum went to bed that night. As I looked in, I saw her in bed, snoring. The person I saw in my room was a ghost. This experience happened in 2000, when I was living in an apartment with my ex-girlfriend in Royal Oak, Michigan. Everything was normal when I first moved in, although my ex claimed that the place was haunted. But at the time, I was still kind of a skeptic, so I didn't think much of what she said, since the place seemed normal enough to me. Plus, she was a bit insane, so I had no reason to believe her or worry about it. Well, after about a year or so of living in the apartment, something strange began to happen. I had recently purchased a video game system, the original PlayStation, if I remember correctly, and had purchased a billiards game for it that was actually pretty cool. I played it every night until the early hours for several weeks. Around the third or fourth night, just after 3 a.m, I was playing the game as usual, when I heard what sounded like a garbage bag being dragged around in the kitchen of the apartment. I walked into the kitchen and the noise stopped. I walked back out and kept playing my game, only to have it happen again. I walked back into the kitchen and it stopped. I paid it no mind and kept playing my game. This went on for a week. After a week of this happening, one night I walked into the kitchen and this time the noise kept going. It sounded like it was happening in the middle of the kitchen, yet there was clearly nothing there. I checked in the garbage can thinking maybe it was a mouse or something, but there was nothing there. I then heard the noise again, and it seemed to be coming from a cabinet. I looked in the cabinet, nothing there. At this point, I started to get creeped out again, and began to wonder if this was something paranormal. Against my better judgment, I finally mustered up the courage to say out aloud, "If there is a spirit here, give me a sign." I looked around the kitchen, not really expecting anything. Then as my eyes met with a plate that was sitting on the counter next to the sink, with a pizza crust still on it from earlier, the pizza crust jumped up off the plate about 6 inches into the air, spun around, and came back down on the plate perfectly, as if it never happened. I felt the blood drain from my body, and began feeling lightheaded and sick. I then felt the strangest thing I have ever felt. I heard the noise again, and it kept getting closer to me. I wanted to run, but I felt frozen in place. I felt some type of energy pass through my body, which I can only assume was a spirit passing through me, and it made my vision get fuzzy, and made me feel almost like an out-of-body experience, like I was looking down at my own body when that happened. I was terrified by this, and left the apartment as quick as I could, and spent the night at the 24-hour laundromat down the street. The next day, I went through the phone book and found a psychic who came out the same day and performed a cleansing of the apartment and tried to communicate with the spirit. The spirit did not want to communicate, and the psychic said it seemed to be trying to hide from him and was moving throughout the apartment, but he said he could feel that there was definitely a spirit there. After the cleansing, He did some banishing rituals and prayers and told me to call him if there were any more issues. There was never another issue in that apartment after that. So what the psychic did, got rid of the spirit. This was absolutely the most terrifying thing I have ever experienced. It definitely changed me from a skeptic to a believer.